I'm Al Bacon, and I would like to welcome you to my Let's Fix It Right channel for easy and straightforward solutions for your home improvement, maintenance, and repair needs and projects. And this is my faithful assistant Cody, who will help us get this project right with his dogged determination and helpful project tips. In this part 2 episode, Cody and I will show you how to professionally install crown molding on a set of complex corner kitchen cabinets. In part 1, we performed a straightforward installation on a rectangular cabinet design. Consequently, it's very important for you to review part 1 prior to watching part 2. These are some of the key points from part 1 that you need to understand prior to jumping into the complex design in part 2. Both parts 1 and 2 have the challenge of mounting the crown molding on top of an irregular surface, which includes irregular corners and different thicknesses of wood on the sides and front of the cabinet. To overcome these irregular surfaces, we mounted a perfectly aligned baseline frame on top of the cabinet for attaching the crown molding. This is one of the baseline frame mounting blocks that I installed on the top of my cabinets. Please notice that I included these perpendicular reinforcement flanges to ensure the mounting blocks are perpendicular, and they in turn ensure that the baseline frame is perfectly aligned with the front and two sides of the cabinet. Consequently, I installed these mounting blocks here on the left, the center, and here on the right of the cabinet. With the baseline frame installed, I then measured, cut, and built the crown molding structure. I then positioned, glued, and nailed it in place. This was a very quick overview of how I installed my crown molding in part 1. If you have any questions, I strongly recommend that you review this episode in its entirety. At this time, let's return to part 2 to install crown molding on my complex corner kitchen cabinets. This is the primary material that we'll be using for the project. My wife picked out this molding, and I have two 8-foot lengths which provide extra wood for practice cuts and fits. And it's large crown molding that measures 5 1/4 inches from here to here. And this is a good shot of its cross section. And we'll be using this pre-painted pine that I bought from Home Depot, which I ripped in half for the baseline frame. Prior to cutting, these pre-painted pieces were 5 1/2 inches wide. We'll use this stock for crown molding alignment guides to secure the crown molding while we're gluing and nailing the molding in place. And it's 3/4 inch wide and 1/2 inch thick. The tools and equipment that I used for this project are as follows: 2P10 thick adhesive and activator glue, Wilson Art Type 2 glue, which is equivalent to Elmer's Carpenter glue, and Loctite heavy duty PL 375 construction adhesive, my rigid brad gun and these 1 1/4 inch and 2 inch brads, a pancake compressor to power the brad gun, Dremel or Bauer tools to cut off the excess brad lengths for safety purposes, adjustable clamps, water putty or plastic wood filler, 220 grit fine sandpaper and 50 grit coarse sandpaper, a hammer, and a nail set. And this is my compound miter saw shown here next to my worthy assistant Cody, or you can use a standard chop saw, a table saw, and lastly, high quality Diablo blades for accurate cuts with my miter saw and table saw. For links to competitive pricing for the Diablo blades and these other tools, go to the description below and select Show More. Similar to my rectangular cabinet in part 1, I started the part 2 project by installing these baseline frame mounting blocks on top of the cabinet. So I've applied PLC 375 to 3 of my reinforcement blocks here. And I'll put these in place right now. One in place here, one in the center here, and one in place here. And I'll glue these the same. And so at this time, I'm going to go ahead and nail these in with my brad nailer. Okay, and for my last block, I'll put these brads in here. And we're in good shape. Okay, at this time I'm going to show you an easy and straightforward approach to measuring, cutting, and installing the baseline frame up against the reinforcement blocks. We'll put the frame piece for the diagonal center section in last. We'll install the side frame here and the other side frame over here. We'll measure this final angle, cut it into our center frame, and nail it into here. And we want that line to come right up on the seam of the corner cabinets here and here as well. So I started off with this side here, and I've marked, as you can see, the areas that butt up against the reinforcement blocks. And what I'm going to do is sand off this pre-painted area here. So when we apply the contractor cement, we've got a good bonding, as well as here, where I've got the X on the reinforcement, the frame, the baseline frame here. We want the other piece coming in, and so we can glue and nail this into place also. Over on this side of the cabinet, I've set up a piece of 90-degree scrap here to facilitate capturing an accurate measurement. Without this frame, it's going to be a tough measurement to get because you're not going to know exactly where the two pieces are going to meet. So it's easier just to put this together, set it in place, and we need an accurate measurement from the wall to the frame. As you can see, this comes out to be exactly 11 15/16 of an inch here, and down here we don't need an exact measurement because this is going to overlap, so we can go about 22 inches. So we got 11 15/16 of an inch here and 22 inches in that direction for this piece on this side. Okay, so I have the back side of this piece of the baseline frame glued at these 3 locations, here, here, and here. So at this time, I'm going to put this in place and nail it to the reinforcement blocks. Simply push this up against the 3 blocks, put it in place like, and I think I'll put 4 brads in each block. Okay, so I have the second piece of the baseline frame perpendicular piece glued here, these two locations here, here, and here. So those match, as you know, with the reinforcement blocks. So let's move up the ladder, put this in place. So you can see it still fits perfectly in place. And I'll get my nail gun in place. For there. Okay, so that completes the gluing and nailing of the first two, the large sections. For the centerpiece of the baseline frame, I want to accurately capture these left and right angles, which could be different. To do that, I'm going to use my large drafting triangle from high school. This ensures that I have both support blocks included in the measurements. I have a good measurement on this side, and I have the same angular measurement on the other side. We'll now get an accurate measurement for this distance, which is now exactly 17 inches edge to edge. At this time, we'll go downstairs and cut a 17-inch centerpiece with the captured angle on the edges. We'll then bring it back up here to see how it fits. The angle is set on my compound miter saw. I'll now cut the left side. Okay, so I have my 17-inch mark here. And we're going to flip this over on the saw and cut down here. Okay, so we have that angle captured, both sides, put it in place, exactly 17 inches. Let's take it up and see how it fits. Okay, so I'm up on the cabinet, the corner cabinet again. Let's place our piece of stock here, our centerpiece in. On the left side, you can see it fits perfectly here. Angle came out perfectly flush along this side with the right piece, and we're perfectly flush along the left side. So we've got a perfect fit. So let's mark off where it comes up against the two reinforcement blocks here, and I'll sand this area off here, apply glue here, and then on the edges, and nail this back in place. Okay, so I have heavy-duty contractor's adhesive applied to these areas on the back side of the centerpiece of the baseline frame. Okay, so I'm up on the center cabinet here this time, and let's go ahead and push these in place. So you're not nice tight fit. We want to make sure that this line here goes right up here, and the same with this line, and it does. So okay, and we'll put some brads over here on the edges. we have a very uniform structure to mount our crown molding to at this time without any irregular edges or anything like that. Okay, so with my baseline frame fully installed above the corner cabinet, I'm now ready to install my crown molding alignment guides. The purpose of these guides is to perfectly hold and align the crown molding while I permanently cement and nail the crown molding in place. These guides are 3/4 of an inch wide and 1/2 inch thick. At this time, I'll nail them in place with a few brads. So we'll just go from left to right here, and as I said, that we're going to mount these right down on the top of the original structure and put one brad in each side. These are easy to get off. Number 2 here, perfectly like this. It's very important to keep these things on here straight, because then if not, your cuts are not going to go on straight for your crown molding. They won't line up. So that's really important to do that. Okay, so we'll put the 4th one in on this side. Okay, so that we've got our crown molding alignment guides in. As you can see, the alignment guide perfectly holds this small practice corner plate piece in place. Next step is to capture these 2 angles on both sides of the corner cabinet. Hopefully they will be equal. However, nowadays builders and cabinet makers don't always install totally symmetrical cabinet angles. If that's the case here, we'll capture 2 different angles. As shown, we have the angle on the left captured, and as you can see, it's approximately 1 degree off from the angle on the right. With that said, I'll use my second angular measuring tool to capture this angle on the right. I'm set up here on my bar near my workshop in the basement, so you can clearly see how I'm working with these angles. My Husky angular measurement tool rocks a little bit because of this distance here, so I'm going to stabilize it a bit to make it easier to capture accurate angular lines. So at this time, we'll draw 2 angular lines. Once again, this represents the left corner angle of the kitchen cabinet. We have the left and right lines perfectly captured, and we'll extend them to identify the apex of the angle. We are good to go, and once again, this is the left cabinet angle. And we use the same process to capture the right cabinet angle. At this time, we want to perfectly bisect both of these angles. And as an engineer, I've always been interested in angles, so using a compass, we'll mark off equal lengths on both angular sides. We'll then mark off equal distances out here and connect the apex with this point to perfectly bisect the angle. On the left side, this angle is equal to this angle. And we did the same on the right side, where the angle is equal to this angle. Prior to going any further, we're going to cover some compound miter saw basics with respect to complementary angles. As you can see, our saw is set up for a perpendicular 90-degree cut with respect to the back fence. However, the scale here indicates 0 degrees. For my compound miter saw, the scale runs from 52 degrees on the left to 63 degrees on the right side, with 0 degrees corresponding to this perpendicular angle in the center. This angular measurement on the scale actually measures the difference between the path of the blade and this line, which is perpendicular to the rear fence of the saw. However, in most cases we are going to be interested in the angle between the path of the blade and the back fence. To derive these angles, we'll use the concept of complementary angles. In other words, to find the fence angle, subtract the angle shown on the scale from 90 degrees. The best way to demonstrate this is to use a couple of my 30, 60, and 90 degree drafting triangles from high school. If you set the scale at 30 degrees here, which covers the path of the blade, you'll see that down here that the cut corresponds to the 60 degree angle on the triangle, or 90 minus 30 degrees equals 60 degrees. In addition, the 30 degree angle of incidence here is measured from the path of the blade and the perpendicular center line. In most cases, we'll be interested in this angle back here, which is the complementary angle with the angle in the scale. Once again, you obtain this by subtracting the scale reading from 90 degrees to obtain your rear fence angle. And this will be the case for the bisected angles that we are dealing with on the left and right sides of the center kitchen cabinet. The next thing we want to do is transfer this angle to the compound miter saw. To do this, we'll set up the angular measurement tool sides tangent to both sides of the angle, which we have here. So now, let's set up this angle on the saw. Once again, the angle that we captured is for the left side of the cabinet. It's 23 degrees. So we have a 23 degree angle for the left side of the cabinet. And so let's go ahead and mark that on our chart so we can change our reading here, but we know you can always come back and set up 23 degrees here. So we got to have exactly 23 degrees. This is the information that I captured from the left side of my cabinets. So I placed this angle on the saw, which shows a 23 degree reading. And knowing this is a complementary angle and subtracting it from 90 degrees, we obtained 67 degrees for our bisected angle. And doubling this shows that the total angle is 134 degrees, which checks out with my overall protractor here. And so using this information, I built this piece of scrap wood representing the left side, which we'll go up and check. This is 67 degrees here, 67 degrees here. This is the right angle that we captured. And when I bisected the angle and placed this angle on the compound miter saw, came out to be, the scale reading was 22.5 degrees, which meant that I had a 67.5 angle on both sides, which added up, doubling this, is 135 degrees total versus 134. So I guessed a 1 degree difference. And as you can see, there is, on the samples we built here that we're going to take up and test, there is a 1 degree difference in the angle here. If I place this one on top of this one, you can see we're perfectly aligned over here, and there's about a 1 degree angle of difference. So let's take these up on the cabinets at this time and try these out. It's important to do this now with this cheap scrap wood rather than the more expensive crown molding which you're going to find out you have a problem with later. So I want to validate that these angles are absolutely accurate before cutting up my crown molding. So keep that in mind. So with that said, let's go upstairs and check these out. Okay, so I'm up on the cabinet area here. This is my left angle. This is our practice stock that we cut, and you can see we have a 100% correct representation of that angle on this practice cut. So we're good to go with those angular measurements there. And over on the right side, the little bit larger angle, as you can see, we have another perfect. This was in a 1 degree larger, and we have a perfect mesh here. So we have a perfect cut representing the right side. So we're going to go with those angular measurements I just now discussed. This is the crown molding cutting jig that I built. It's made out of pine on the back side and chipboard on the bottom. I nailed this piece of trim in place to securely hold the crown molding while cutting. Notice that I've marked my brad holes when I pieced it together so I won't ruin my high quality Diablo Saw blade. It only takes one nail to destroy an expensive blade. It's approximately 45 inches long, 6 inches wide on the base, and 4.5 inches tall on the back side. As you can see, the crown molding fits in here perfectly. The back side is flush here and on the bottom here. It's very important to note that you set up the bottom of the crown molding for the outside 90-degree corners, which are made from two 45-degree angle cuts on the top of the jig, and for the inside corners, which you'll see in episode 75, set up the top of the crown molding on the top of the jig. Using this cutting approach, I made this practice jig for the left angle in the cabinet. So let's take this up to the cabinet and see what it looks like. You've seen my 90-degree cut. So I've got the 90 here, which sets in perfectly with my alignment guides, which is crown molding alignment guides. And then this is my cut for the left side, practice cut for the left side of the cabinet. So you can see it comes in perfectly here on the left side. In addition, I have accurate measurements of all four sides. Starting on the left, we have 33 and 1/16. Center is 17 inches. Right is 21 and 1/16. And the outside edge is 11 and 15/16. For my two previous crown molding installations for our rectangular cabinet structures, I built and connected all three pieces in my shop and then came up to the kitchen and installed, glued, and nailed them in place. I did this for this gray cabinet here and our white cabinet over here. For this more complex structure, we're going to build and install from left to right. We'll do these one at a time. If a piece doesn't fit, I'll make adjustments and recut a new piece if necessary. As I mentioned, we're going to use our two practice corner cuts as training aids to ensure we make correct crown molding cuts when we return to the compound miter saw in the basement. Without these practice corner cuts, it would be very easy to make some major mistakes. This is how the corner fits with the top here and decoration on the bottom. We have the 33 and 1/16 here and the 17 inches here. So I've marked 17 and 33 and 1/16. So I'm going to take this down to the table saw and we'll cut the 33 and 1/16 first to make sure it's correct, and then move on to the 17 incher here. We're down here in the shop on the compound miter saw, and once again, when using the jig for inside corner cuts, the top of the crown molding aligns with the top of the jig. The distance from the perpendicular edge here to the cut is 33 1/16. As you can see from the orientation of my practice cut, the 33 1/16 goes to the right of the cut on my jig. At this time, we're ready to make our cut, first cut. Okay, so let's take this up and see what we have. Okay, so I'm back up on the cabinets, and my first cut of 36 1/16 came out perfectly. So now we're going to go down and cut 17-inch center section. Okay, so using my training aid once again, ensure I keep this intact, I've moved compound miter saw over to 23 degrees, coming from the opposite direction. And for the first 17-inch cut, so I have 23 degrees set here, top up here, and we'll make our first cut. Okay, so for the opposite side of my 17-inch cut, the 22.5 degrees set here on this side, and I have 17 inches measured exactly along here. So we are now ready to make that cut. Okay, so I'm up here on the cabinets again, and I have my two pieces in place, and I'm ready to apply some 2P10 adhesive and the activator. So let's go ahead and do that at this time. Let's glue this first joint and see what we've got here. So first joint with the activator. And I've had a lot of success with this P210. I think it's great stuff. The only caution on this, but you don't want to have too much drip through the front face, because that stuff is, once it dries, it's very difficult to get off. Okay, so there's the bonding and the activator. So we've got the activator up, as well as the joint glue. And let's put these in place. And let's get a good tight bond here. You're supposed to hold this very tight for about 10 seconds, and it cures. Our P210 is dried here, and it's in place, held by my crown molding alignment guides, which do a great job, as I'd mentioned. Moving on, I've got this piece cut here, pre-cut this before coming up, and this was at the 22.5 to meet this one. So we can see that we have a nice joint there. So we have even though that's this is 1 degree off from there, we've got a very nice joint there. And I have this marked down here with my pencil, and from here we're going to cut a 45-degree angle, preparing to make my first 45-degree angle cut for that outside angle. So we're cutting this side here, which is going to be up on the, this is the last one in this direction, so we're going to cut this side here. We turn it upside down, and we're going to be making this cut here, as you can see. So we've got that oriented correctly. And as I mentioned once again, the bottom of the crown molding goes to the top of the jig right here. So we're in good shape. I've positioned this in place. I could see that this is going to work out perfectly over here. So let's go down and I'll cut the other cut, the 11 15/16, and we'll see how that works out. Okay, so this is the piece that I just finished cutting, and this is the 45-degree angle portion of it that I showed you that we cut by cutting from this direction here, and this is the upside down piece. So if you flip it upside down like this, we're going to go 11 and 15/16 of an inch from here to here. So basically what we want to do is cut this direction here, cut this 45-degree angle piece off, and then measure over 11 and 15/16 of an inch, and then make a perpendicular cut. Okay, so I have a 11 and 15/16 of an inch measured from this point here to here. So let's make this cut, and let's go upstairs and we'll check all of our pieces at this time. Okay, so we'll put our two new pieces in here. We've already checked this one for fit before, so basically it's going to fit in here like this, and this one will fit in here like this. So we have perfect fits. So let's go ahead and glue these in place. Okay, so we'll put the glue in place at this time, as well as the activator. And we'll get these lined up as close as possible. Get a nice looking joint here and hold it to cure for 10 seconds. Okay, so we've got that bonded in place. We're in good shape. So let's move on to the next joint. Okay, so I've got this one aligned pretty good. So let's go ahead and put some glue and activator on it. So we'll apply the glue first. Then the activator. Get it lined up as best as possible, because once you glue it, that's it. And we've got a good connection here. I don't like this. Let's get this cleaned up before it dries. That liquid dries really hard, and it's difficult to get off without damaging the material. So I'll hold this tight as possible. Okay, so we have the entire structure put together. This time I'm going to lift our crown molding as a unit off the crown molding alignment guides and just set it up here temporarily on top of the structure. I'm going to run a bead of construction adhesive right along the top edge, or just above, about a ½ inch above the crown molding alignment guides I have here. I'll now put the crown molding in place over the glue, over the construction adhesive, and as you can see, it's squeezing it in nicely in the back. So we're going to have a good bond, and I'm going to push everything snugly in place. Okay, so that's pushed in snugly in place. So next thing we're going to do is nail it in place. Okay, so we're set up here with our brad gun, and I'm going to put a couple rads in key areas. just to hold the structure generally in place. So we're good for these two pieces here. Come around to the side. This one wants to creep up a little on us. We'll put one in back here. Put it on top of the alignment guide. Okay, so we've got that pretty well nailed in place. So let's put a few extra brads in here for strength. Brads are great for strength, but you also have to fill the holes prior to painting them. So there's a little bit of a drawback there. Okay, so we've got that nailed in place. So we're going to work quickly here and now remove, while the glue is still wet, we want to remove the crown molding alignment guides. You don't want to leave these in here, leave them on for an extended period of time, because you're not going to get them off. You could actually pull off or damage parts of your crown molding if you left these on too long. So now is the time to pull them off. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to remove the crown molding alignment guides and try to do it with hopefully a minimal amount of damage. You're going to get some damage, but you can repair it. So here's this one. Like this one. Okay, so I'm back with a hammer just to give this a couple of pops. There we go. You wouldn't think two brads would hold it that well, but they do. And we got that out. And we're marked up here a little bit. You can see the marks from the brad gun, but that's not a problem. We'll sand this down first and then put some wood filler or caulk on there, and we'll dress up these joints a little bit, and then they'll be prepared, ready for painting. But prior to doing that, we're going to go up top and put some braces in here, and we're going to back up with braces on these seams, 3 seams, to ensure that they can't separate. We'll now provide strong reinforcements for our 3 joints, so our crown molding will last indefinitely. In addition, we'll mount them from the rear, so these reinforcements will not be visible from anywhere in the kitchen. We'll start by gluing and nailing this 90-degree corner reinforcement block in place, which I showed how to make in part 1. We're in position on the 90-degree crown molding corner, where we are going to glue and nail this corner reinforcement block in place. Okay. This is the reinforcement block that I built for the left complex corner, shown above, and it fits like this on the back side of the molding. So at this time, I'll show you step by step how I built the right reinforcement block for the right complex corner, shown above. We'll start by capturing and setting up the block's cutting angle on my table saw. This is my model 90-degree corner, which you've seen before, and its angle of incidence on our crown molding. I've transferred this angle to the saw, and we'll now make this angular cut on this high-grade pine. Okay, so that completes our cut. We'll take this down to our shop. Using our high-grade pine that we just cut from the table saw, we're going to build a second reinforcement block for this Rite complex joint. The information on this joint that I showed you earlier in this video is as follows. 22.5 degree compound miter saw scale setting, which provides for a 67.5 degree complementary angle cut for these two bisected angles, and a total angular measurement of 135 degrees for the sum of the two bisected angles. We'll set the saw at 22.5 degrees, then cut on this side and then on this side, and then cut approximately 4 inches off of each side of the stock, and then bond them together. And with that in mind, let's get to work. Scale is set at 22.5 degrees, and we'll make a cut. And let's do the same on the opposite side. 22.5 degrees, outside edge here. We'll reset it back to 0, and we'll make a couple of cuts here. One here. Okay, so we got those marked off. And that's cut off. So let's take these over to the other bench and bond them together. Okay, so we're over here on the other bench. We'll apply a short bead of P210 here on this side. Spray some activator on this side. Come in, bond the joint together. Okay, so that should do that. Well, we're in good shape there. Let's nail a brad on each side. We're in good shape. So let's see how we did. Set this right up here, and you can see that we've pretty well replicated our original angle. The next step is to flip this over and add a second layer of pine to the reinforcement block. It's important to add this second layer so you have a continuous surface or slope that will be flush with the inside of the crown molding. To achieve this effect, we'll move the second layer of pine all the way over and mark our cut. So let's go ahead and cut this. And you can see how we did a great job, but I wish I should have cut it right here. So I'm going to make one more cut, make another cut a little bit farther in where we take it off here. And you can see we've done a good job. But let's mark this here, and we're going to apply. Okay, so at this time we're going to apply glue to this surface. And we'll set this up on the over the block. One nail in here. Make sure this is flush. Over here. Now, this next step is to bring another one in here, cut at this angle here. Okay, so you can see we have that angle of incidence set perfectly on the saw blade at this time. So we'll go ahead and lock this into place. Okay, so we'll make our cut at this time. And let's go see how we did. And as you can see, that fits into position perfectly here. With glue applied, we'll match our surfaces up and nail them together. So let's trim this up a little bit at this time. We'll cut that off here. And we'll cut this angle off here too. This side off. And make our final cut here. That completes the construction of our Rite reinforcement block. With glue applied, we'll mount our Rite reinforcement block first. You can see it fits in here perfectly. Okay, and we'll nail the left one in now, which also fits perfectly. Okay, that completes the reinforcements for our 3 joints. And we'll finish up on our crown molding structure by adding 9 reinforcement braces between the top of the reinforcement blocks and the back side of the crown molding. So we got 1 here, center, over here, and 2 in this region here on the center ones, and 2 over here, and then 2 on the side. Our braces will be 2.5 inches wide and 4.5 inches long, with an inclination that matches the slope of our crown molding is shown here. These are my 9 reinforcement braces, and as you can see, they mesh up against the inside of my crown molding perfectly. This is my final brace with glue on its underside that I've placed in position here. Okay, so at this time I'll nail each brace in place. Okay, so that's my final brace put into position. Okay, so at this time I'm going to shoot brads through the front of the crown molding into each brace. This is our final product with everything installed. And as you can see, it needs some sanding and finishing. To do that, I use these key products: non-shrinkable Durham water putty, 220 grit fine sandpaper, 50 grit coarse sandpaper, Benjamin Moore Sticks primer, or your standard Kills interior-exterior primer, which I think works very good. And lastly, I recommend that you finish your projects with Benjamin Moore White Satin Advance, which is a fantastic finishing paint that you cannot go wrong with. With all that said, you can see that our final product came out great. This concludes this part 2 episode, where Cody and I showed you how to professionally install crown molding on a set of complex corner kitchen cabinets. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and select the YouTube bell, so YouTube will notify you of all my new projects immediately after I publish them. At this time, Cody and I are moving on to our next project. You're more than welcome to follow. In addition, if you have a great project that you want to post on my YouTube channel, email me some pictures and a brief description of it. If it qualifies for the Let's Fix It Right standards to help others, I'll interview you over the phone as a guest do-it-yourselfer, produce a high-quality video, and post it on my Let's Fix It Right channel. For the year following this posting, I'll share 50% of the potential YouTube benefits with you. If you have any subject matter requests or recommendations, please contact me. All of this said, I recommend that you subscribe to my channel, follow my projects, and save a bundle of money doing it.